Naomi's hand had barely touched the pool gate when Beverly slammed it shut with a loud clang, the metal locking in place just as Jasmine stumbled backward, her walker catching on the pavement. The 11-year-old hit the ground hard, her elbow scraping against the concrete, tears brimming in her eyes. What Beverly didn't realize in that moment was that she hadn't just injured a child, she'd awakened a federal strategist with the power to dismantle everything she thought she controlled. The Arizona heat was already pushing past 103 degrees when Jasmine asked if we could go to the pool. Her voice was hopeful, laced with the kind of sweetness only an 11-year-old with bright eyes and a fragile frame could muster. "Mom, Dr. Ortega said swimming helps with my balance, remember?" I looked up from my encrypted laptop screen where I'd been reviewing grid vulnerability scenarios. Jasmine stood in the hallway, gripping the titanium walker we'd custom fitted for her just 6 months ago. Even in the air conditioning, sweat clung to her temple, but she wore a smile that could level any defense system. "All right, Bug," I said, using the nickname she'd earned for her obsession with insects. "Let's grab towels." We'd only lived in Rosecrest Grove for 12 days, a master-planned community just north of Scottsdale where the stucco homes were pristine, the sidewalks spotless, and the HOA rules printed in font sizes worthy of government documentation. As a cybersecurity strategist with the Department of Energy, recently transferred from D.C., I was still adjusting to the West Coast rhythms, sunrise joggers, HOA bulletin emails, and the eerie silence of overland power lines humming through luxury neighborhoods. Jasmine had taken the move better than I had. She'd already started documenting new species of beetles in the desert shrubs and was eager to test out the hydrodynamics of dragonflies at the pool. Her latest fascination had led her to believe the pool area was prime dragonfly territory. "You think we'll see the green darner again?" she asked as we stepped outside, the sun nearly blinding. "They like open water and sun, right?" "Definitely a possibility," I said, hoisting the cooler bag over my shoulder and locking the townhouse door behind us. It was a short walk, less than 5 minutes, but every step felt longer under the sun. Jasmine kept pace, carefully navigating the paved walkway with her walker. She was proud to walk without assistance, and I let her. As we neared the wrought iron gates of the pool, I spotted a woman standing near the entrance, clipboard in hand, as if she were inspecting a military parade. She wore a tennis skirt, spotless white sneakers, and the kind of oversized sunglasses favored by the judgmental elite. Her blonde hair was styled in a high ponytail, unmoved by the humidity. A glint from her diamond ring caught my eye just as I entered the access code on the keypad. Beep. The lock clicked. I reached for the gate. "Excuse me," the woman said, stepping in front of me with practiced precision. I stopped, Jasmine pausing just behind me. "Can I help you?" I asked. "I don't believe we've met," she said, her smile tight and insincere. "I'm Beverly Langston, Vice President of the Rosecrest Grove HOA and Chair of the Community Safety and Wellness Committee." She said it like a judge delivering a sentence. "Naomi Carter," I said, keeping my tone even. "This is my daughter, Jasmine. We just moved into 42, Magnolia Court." Her eyes flicked down to Jasmine's walker like it was something indecent. "I'm afraid I can't allow that equipment into the pool area," she said. Jasmine's expression faltered. I stepped protectively closer. "This is a mobility aid," I explained. "My daughter has spinal muscular atrophy and needs her walker for support." Beverly tilted her head slightly. "I'm aware of what it is. But HOA policy restricts non-standard equipment in the pool enclosure. It's a safety hazard." "Her walker won't go near the water," I said, keeping my voice controlled. "And the ADA guarantees her the right to reasonable accommodation in common areas." Beverly's eyes narrowed. "This isn't a public facility. Rosecrest Grove is a private community with its own standards. If you'd like to set your daughter down on a lounger, that would be fine, but the equipment must stay outside the gate." Jasmine looked up at me. Her eyes, so usually curious and resilient, were now confused. And hurt. "That's not how this works," I said. "The Americans with Disabilities Act and the Fair Housing Act apply to HOAs. This is a medically necessary device. You can't exclude her based on that. Beverly crossed her arms. I'm not excluding her, I'm excluding the walker. There's a difference. The kind of bureaucratic nonsense I'd seen crumble in courtrooms. I'm not going to carry my daughter like luggage. She has the right to her dignity and independence. Then perhaps you should return during non-peak hours. Early morning or late evening, when fewer residents are present. There's no one here now, I pointed out. Indeed, the pool was nearly empty, 2 residents under umbrellas and a teenage lifeguard pretending not to notice the tension. Beverly's mouth tightened. I'm responsible for safety here. I don't make exceptions. Jasmine's arms trembled slightly as she gripped the walker, her knees locking from fatigue. She was trying so hard to stand tall. Mom, she whispered. Let's just go home. That broke me. I crouched beside her. We're not going anywhere, Jasmine. We have every right to be here. I stood and looked Beverly dead in the eyes. I'm asking you one last time, let us through. Beverly said nothing, just shifted her weight and gave the smallest, cruelest shrug. Then she moved. With calculated speed, she pushed the gate, hard. The metal slammed shut, locking automatically with a loud click. The sudden sound jolted Jasmine, who instinctively backed up. Her walker caught on the uneven pavement. I reached for her, but not fast enough. She fell, landing hard on her side. One of the walker's wheels bent sharply inward. Jasmine! I dropped to the ground. Her eyes welled with tears, and she clutched her elbow, scraped and raw. The walker lay beside her, useless. What the hell is wrong with you? I snapped, spinning toward Beverly, whose face remained as blank as a statue. She lost her balance. I didn't touch her. You slammed the gate shut. I was enforcing the rules, she said coldly. That device is not allowed. This is a violation of federal law, I growled. And she's a child. A disabled child. A new voice entered the scene. Is everything okay here? A tall man in workout clothes approached, bottle of water in hand. He had a calm presence, sharp jawline, dark hair cropped close to his head. Military, I guessed. She just caused my daughter to fall, I explained, motioning to Jasmine. Because of a walker. I caught part of that on video, he said, raising his phone slightly. Wasn't sure what I was seeing until now. You're both blowing this out of proportion, Beverly muttered, her tone suddenly clipped. This is an HOA matter, and I'm calling security. Please do, I said, standing and helping Jasmine sit upright. I'd love to explain to them how you violated the ADA and injured a minor. Beverly's cheeks turned a shade paler. You new people come here thinking you can change our standards. This community has rules. And those rules are illegal, I snapped. You picked the wrong family to target. The man knelt beside Jasmine. Hey kiddo, are you okay? She nodded through tears, still holding her elbow. Name's Daniel, he added softly. Daniel Cho. I live 2 streets down. Thank you, I said, grateful for a witness. I'm Naomi. Well, Naomi, I've got this all recorded. And if you want, I'll speak to the board myself. That wasn't okay. Beverly stepped back, her confidence cracking. You'll be hearing from me, I told her flatly. And you'll want to brush up on federal law before then. As I helped Jasmine to her feet and guided her home, her walker now wobbling like a broken wing, I heard Beverly dialing someone on her phone, muttering about non-compliant residents. But her voice was distant now, muffled by the sound of my daughter's pain and my own growing fury. Jasmine leaned into me, quiet. I'm sorry, she said, barely above a whisper. I stopped. Turned to face her. Don't you ever apologize for needing help. That woman was wrong. And now she's going to learn just how wrong she was. As we reached our front door, Daniel jogged up and handed me his card. I'm a consultant. Former Air Force. If you need a witness or the footage, I'm here. I took it, nodding firmly. Thanks. She has no idea what she just started. That night, after Jasmine had fallen asleep watching a nature documentary with an ice pack on her arm, I sat at my desk, surrounded by files, screenshots, legal PDFs. I wasn't just a mom now. I was a system analyst. And the system at Rosecrest Grove was about to get hacked. Sleep didn't come easily that night. Not after the sight of Jasmine clutching her elbow, blinking back tears, asking if she'd done something wrong. Not after watching Beverly Langston's indifference curdle into something darker, dismissal wrapped in self-righteousness. While Jasmine slept upstairs with an ice pack tucked under her arm and her favorite Beetle plushie in her arms, I sat at the dining room table with a hot mug of coffee and my work laptop, surrounded by printed HOA documents, legal PDFs, and the scratched, bent frame of her walker leaning like a wounded soldier against the wall. I hadn't felt this particular fire in years, not since testifying before Congress about critical grid vulnerabilities. But this was different. This wasn't a hypothetical scenario or a foreign nation-state threat. This was my daughter. And this was personal. First, I documented everything. I created a secure log in my encrypted work archive, timestamps, direct quotes from Beverly, witness observations, and a full chain of events account of what happened. I uploaded Daniel Cho's video footage, then took high-resolution photos of Jasmine's injury and the damaged walker from every angle, including a ruler for scale. That walker, custom-built with adjustable titanium joints and a curved balance frame, cost over $3,000 and took 4 months to fit. It wasn't just equipment. It was her freedom. Next, I dove into Rosecrest Grove's HOA documentation. I downloaded the Community CC and RS, bylaws, and every safety bulletin issued in the past 3 years. The language was vague in that infuriatingly convenient way, plenty of references to maintaining safety and ensuring a positive aesthetic, but not a single mention of ADA compliance, disability accommodations, or protected mobility aids. I searched for terms like walker, wheelchair, mobility, accessibility. Nothing. No ADA statement. No reference to inclusive design. In a neighborhood that boasted its commitment to wellness, they had built a system blind to the very people who might need that wellness most. By 2 a.m., I'd started building my case, something strong enough not just to expose the injustice, but to make it legally untenable. I emailed Jasmine's neurologist, Dr. Ortega, requesting a formal letter stating the medical necessity of aquatic therapy for her condition and the essential use of a mobility device for safe access. I included the video link and explained the nature of the incident. At 7:16 a.m., I got a reply, "This is horrifying, Naomi. I'll have a signed document and reference the relevant ADA statutes by noon." I forwarded that email to my old law school roommate, now a partner at a disability rights firm in D.C. She called me within the hour. She slammed the gate shut on a disabled child? In a gated community? Does she realize how many federal violations that is? She will, I said coldly. And I want precedent. I want case law that proves HOA power doesn't override the ADA. I've got 3 cases. All settled in favor of the plaintiff. You're not just in the right, you're standing on a legal battlefield with a rocket launcher. She emailed the filings, and I added them to the growing dossier. Meanwhile, Jasmine didn't ask about the pool once. Normally, she would have been up by sunrise with her bug net and sketchbook, hoping to spot early morning dragonflies before the sun got too hot. But she stayed in bed, quiet, flipping through her insect encyclopedia without speaking. I watched her retreat into silence with the aching helplessness only a mother can know. When I asked if she wanted to sit outside, she shook her head. "What if people think I'm weird?" she whispered. "What if they think my walker is ugly?" I sat beside her and kissed her temple. "Then they don't deserve to be near someone as brave as you." She didn't reply, but she leaned her head against my arm. It was the first time I saw her eyes soften all week. On Wednesday, Daniel Cho dropped by after his morning run. He had a USB drive with the original footage in 4K, plus the HOA's resident directory, which he claimed had accidentally been included in a new neighbor welcome packet. Beverly's on the board, but also runs half the real estate listings in this neighborhood, he said. People don't speak up because she's tied to the developer. She's untouchable. Not anymore, I said, inserting the USB into my laptop. The video was even more damning in high resolution. You could see Beverly's hand pushing the gate, her lips moving as she snapped, "Rules are rules," just before the gate slammed and Jasmine went down. You could hear her say, "I didn't touch her," over Jasmine's quiet sobs. I layered the video into a PowerPoint presentation with the ADA language highlighted alongside it. "You're building a war plan," Daniel said, watching me work. "No," I corrected, "I'm building a firewall, with consequences." By Friday morning, my dossier included the incident timeline, medical documentation from Dr. Ortega, the video and photographic evidence, a list of federal statutes violated, 3 supporting legal precedents, and a written statement from Daniel as an eyewitness. But it needed one final destination, an audience. That came at 9:42 a.m., when I received an anonymous email forwarded by another neighbor. Emergency HOA meeting scheduled, Friday 7 p.m. agenda, safety review and new equipment protocols for common areas. I stared at the screen, jaw tight. Beverly wasn't backing down, she was doubling down. Trying to formalize discrimination under the veil of safety. That was her mistake. That afternoon, I printed every document on heavyweight paper, tabbed the pages in color-coded sections, and packed them into a black leather presentation folder. I made 2 copies. Jasmine watched quietly from the hallway. "Are you going to the meeting tonight?" "We are," I said. She hesitated. "Even if the mean lady's there?" "Especially because the mean lady's there." She looked unsure. "You'll be safe," I added. "You don't have to speak. Just be there with me." "Can I bring my Beatle notes?" "Absolutely." At 6:30 p.m., we arrived early at the community clubhouse. The room was already filling with residents, couples in golf attire, retirees in resort wear, young parents balancing toddlers on hips. I spotted Beverly at the board table, papers spread before her like she was preparing for court. Her smile vanished when she saw me walk in, Jasmine steady beside me with her replacement walker, rushed overnight from Chicago at a cost I didn't want to think about. Daniel waved us over to the second row, saving us seats. "Got your 6, he said quietly. "Let's do this." I watched Beverly smooth her blazer, then tap the microphone. "Good evening, residents of Rosecrest Grove," she began. "We've called this emergency session to address concerns about safety protocols regarding common area usage and equipment." I flipped open my binder and smiled. She was walking into her own trap, and I was about to spring it. Naomi sat in the second row, her black leather binder resting firmly in her lap, its edges sharp and clean like a legal weapon waiting to be unsheathed. Beside her, Jasmine clutched her bug notebook, wearing a teal dress with dragonflies printed on it and a quiet determination that hadn't been there days ago. Daniel Cho gave them both a subtle nod from his seat on the other side, his phone in hand and ready. Beverly Langston, perched behind the microphone in her stiff navy blazer and signature icy smile, tapped twice on the wood surface and brought the emergency HOA meeting to order. "We're here tonight," she announced, "to address urgent concerns raised about safety and equipment usage in our community's shared spaces. Specifically, we are proposing new language to clarify what items are allowed in pool and recreation areas to ensure a safe environment for all residents." The words came out rehearsed, almost bored, but Naomi heard the edge beneath them. Beverly was trying to preemptively justify what she'd done, codify it, even, before anyone could challenge her. Naomi let her speak, scanning the crowd. Residents filled every folding chair. Some leaned forward in curiosity. Others had already heard murmurs of what had happened to Jasmine and were here to see if it was true. When Beverly began reading aloud from the proposed amendment, Naomi's pulse quickened. "All recreational areas of Rosecrest Grove shall remain free of unauthorized items that may pose a tripping hazard. including sports gear, unattended belongings, and non-standard medical equipment not in active emergency use. A low ripple of murmuring moved through the room. Naomi's fingers curled around her binder. The intent, Beverly said smoothly, is not to discriminate but to ensure fairness and safety. If anyone would like to speak before we take the board vote, now is the time. Naomi stood without hesitation. Yes, she said clearly. I have something to say. Beverly's expression barely changed, but her hand twitched near the microphone. You're welcome to speak briefly, Ms. Carter, she said, omitting Naomi's professional title, the way one might leave off a middle initial. Naomi walked to the front of the room, her heels echoing with crisp precision. She turned to face the residents, not the board. My name is Naomi Carter. My daughter Jasmine and I moved into Rosecrest Grove less than 2 weeks ago. And this week, a woman in this room, someone sitting at this very table, slammed a gate in my daughter's face because she uses a mobility walker. The murmuring intensified. Naomi opened the binder and held up a photo of Jasmine's bent walker frame. This device is not recreational equipment. It's not non-standard. It's her legs. And under federal law, it's protected. Beverly opened her mouth, but Naomi raised a hand. I'm not done. She lifted a second document. This is a formal letter from Dr. Gabriel Ortega, pediatric neurologist at Desert Valley Medical Center. It confirms Jasmine's diagnosis of spinal muscular atrophy and outlines the essential role of aquatic therapy in her treatment. Her walker, he states, is medically necessary for safe movement on dry land, including access to pool areas. A murmur of support rose from the audience. Naomi held up another page. This is a list of ADA and Fair Housing Act violations currently present in Rosecrest Grove, including lack of pool lifts, no posted accommodation policies, and zero accessibility guidelines in your governing documents. Beverly shifted in her seat. Miss Carter, we know, Naomi said sharply, her voice still calm but resonating with power. This community cannot claim to be committed to wellness while it actively excludes disabled children from its facilities. She turned slightly and nodded at Daniel. He stood and walked to the AV table, connecting his phone to the clubhouse projector. A few seconds later, the screen lit up. This is what happened last Monday, Daniel said simply. The video played. The room watched in stunned silence as Beverly stepped in front of the pool gate, argued with Naomi, and then, undeniably, slammed the gate. Jasmine's startled fall played out in painful slow motion. Her walker collapsed. Her elbow hit the pavement. Her mother's gasp. The scrape of metal on concrete. Then Beverly's voice, that device is not allowed in the pool area. When the video ended, the silence was deafening. A woman in the back row muttered, that poor child. Another man whispered, unbelievable. Beverly stood. This is being misrepresented. I acted within my responsibilities. No, Naomi interrupted. You acted as if the law didn't apply to you. But it does. You don't get to hide behind community safety while harming children and violating federal protections. She turned to the rest of the board. I am formally requesting that this proposed policy be withdrawn immediately. Further, I am submitting this binder to the board as an ADA compliance and security risk assessment, prepared using my training as a senior cybersecurity strategist with the Department of Energy. The room gasped. Even Beverly looked taken aback. Wait, yes, Naomi confirmed, letting the words hang. It's my job to identify vulnerabilities in critical systems, power grids, nuclear sites, digital infrastructure. And I've never seen a smaller system more vulnerable to legal collapse than the one you're running here. One of the board members, a man named Paul Evans, cleared his throat. I move that we withdraw the proposed amendment immediately and review the documentation Ms. Carter has submitted. Seconded, another voice called. All in favor? Paul asked. Nearly every hand in the room went up. Motion carries, he said firmly. Now, he added, turning to Beverly, we need to discuss your conduct. What followed was swift and devastating. The board voted to suspend Beverly from all committee duties pending an independent investigation. They issued a formal apology to Jasmine on the spot. And the developer representative who had been sitting quietly in the corner stood up and announced immediate funding for ADA upgrades, including a pool lift and new accessibility signage throughout Rosecrest Grove. Naomi sat down, finally exhaling. Jasmine looked up at her with wide eyes. "You were like Wonder Woman," she whispered. Naomi smiled. "More like compliance enforcer." Daniel leaned in. "For what it's worth, that was one hell of a takedown. You ever consider running for HOA president?" Naomi laughed. "One miracle at a time." In the days that followed, Beverly's grip on the neighborhood unraveled. Complaints surfaced. Old grievances were aired. She listed her home within 2 weeks and moved to a smaller development across town. Jasmine, meanwhile, regained her spark. She returned to the pool, this time surrounded by other kids who wanted to learn about the dragonflies she studied so carefully. Her notes became the foundation of a junior science club that now meets weekly by the water. And Naomi? She accepted a position on the newly restructured safety committee, this time as chair. Her first initiative, a comprehensive emergency response plan for residents with disabilities and seniors. Rosecrest Grove had changed. The gate that once slammed shut now swung open, with a new, wider ADA-compliant entrance being installed that very month. One evening, as Naomi and Jasmine walked home beneath the soft orange glow of the desert sunset, Jasmine glanced up. "Do you think she'll ever say sorry?" Naomi paused. "I think she already has, in the form of an empty house." Jasmine smiled. "I like that better than an apology." Naomi reached for her daughter's hand. "That's because you're strong, kiddo. And now, so is this community. Sometimes, all it takes is one door slammed in the face to open a dozen more, with the right person standing on the other side." What happened to Naomi Carter and her daughter Jasmine is more than just a story about a pool gate and a power-hungry HOA official. It's a powerful reminder of what happens when courage meets injustice and refuses to back down. The lesson here is simple but critical: know your rights, and never be afraid to stand up for them. Discrimination doesn't always come in loud, obvious ways. Sometimes, it hides behind polished smiles and carefully worded policies, just like Beverly Langston's so-called safety regulations. But no matter how subtle or justified it may seem, discrimination is still discrimination, and it is never acceptable. Naomi didn't just stand up as a mother, she stood up as a strategist, an advocate, and a citizen who refused to let her daughter be silenced or shamed. She used what she knew: facts, law, and truth, and turned it into action. Her response wasn't fueled by rage, but by precision and principle. She didn't fight fire with fire, she fought injustice with evidence, professionalism, and resolve. The world needs more people like Naomi. But even more importantly, every community needs to be reminded that rules do not override human rights. No HOA guideline, no board vote, and no title gives anyone the authority to strip a person, especially a child, of dignity and access. To every parent listening, you are your child's strongest advocate. To every neighbor, don't stay silent when you witness injustice. And to every person with a disability or caring for someone who has won, you belong in every space, without apology, without exception. Let Naomi's story be your reminder: the system can work, but only when someone is bold enough to challenge it. From all of us here at Us Justice Stories, thank you for spending your time with us today. If this story moved you, inspired you, or opened your eyes, please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing to help us bring more stories of everyday justice to light. Your support means everything. And to Jasmine, wherever you are, we hope the dragonflies keep dancing by the pool. You helped change more than just a rule. You reminded us all what strength really looks like. Until next time, stay strong, stay aware, and always stand for what's right.